believe me.
A good planet?
Well, in many ways, yes. In other ways, they're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
But it was quite an experience overall. Many lessons, lots of lessons.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. I went there to improve my Spanish, and I ended up with different lessons,
Ah.
including the Spanish. So let's see. Okay.
Anthony, did you get both of George's letters?
I did.
What did you think?
I thought it was good. My input in this a little bit limited from my experience from the past.
Here, speaking of the devil, George just showed up.
Oh, good. Hey, George.
Hi, George.
Hi.
Glad to see your smiling face.
There it is.
Okay.
Let's see.
Anthony, I think we're all here.
All right.
Unless you invited some strangers to the party.
Well, we're live. We're recording. We're all here. If everyone has any problem hearing, just say so. We'll call the meeting to order.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so I'm going to type this in.
Everyone have a chance to look over the minutes from December 2nd meeting?
Yes.
Everybody should have the minutes more than one time.
Okay. I vote to accept them.
Seconded.
Okay.
Very good. All right, so first up, the ongoing collaborations on sustainable old line. Do we have any more to discuss on that? We kind of, that's in between fields right now. I saw the email from Holly sent an email about sustainable actions as they pertain to conservation specifically.
Actually, that was Cheryl Poirier who sent it about the
Okay.
watershed just actions that I don't know if the Conservation Commission would be interested in, but I think she sent out 5 possible actions that the Conservation Commission might be interested in.
Right.
I think it's a good
Watershed
idea.
education, watershed management plan, engaging in watershed restoration,
And
water
low-impact development.
conservation, and low impact development, if you can hear me.
Yeah.
There were 5 PDFs, but it's not something where anyone needs to make a decision right away. It's just something that people might want to think about.
Okay. I haven't had a chance to thoroughly look through them, but I think just stuff to keep on our radar, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a lot of material, and you probably want to take a good look at it before you decide whether you want to go forward with any of them. So.
Well, just to add a couple of comments, I think there's a lot going on for sustainable CTT, sustainable old Lyme, and I think it needs to be addressed. I think that it's a good thing for a conservation commission to have a conversation at this point, this meeting or the next meeting, about how all of these initiatives overlap and what role conservation wants to play in them. There's a lot of good things happening, good stuff. And if you want to know what they are, you can look at the Old Lyme Events magazine that should be in your mailbox. Two things. One is on page 10, Sustainable Practices Recognition, which is the story about achieving recognition for the town, and specifically success stories and models that came from Old Lyme. So we should choose, well, this group should be able to address that and decide where do we want to put our energy, what have we got for energy and resources, and there's a lot of good choices now, a lot of good things happening. For example, let's see, arts and creative culture, we got many points in that. Success, they were considered success stories for Old Lyme. Effective community communications, arts and creative culture, 2010 Plan of Conservation and Development. Woo-hoo. So, those are all worth developing and using to make our point, especially with the Conservation and Development Plan. Success stories were Old Lyme Public School commitment to clean energy by 2030 and inclusive process by which the walkability study was conducted, Holly.
Well, I haven't seen this yet, but yeah, no, that's good of her to have written that up.
Well, I'm pretty sure it must have been Cheryl, because I wrote a separate piece on page 12, which is our Conservation Commission submission, and my title was Coordination with Environmental and Conservation Group. So if you take a few minutes and look at page 10 and 12 when you finish the meeting, it's going to spark the interest of what the people are already doing in this commission. The walkability, the hiking, the open space, all fits right in there. What we have to do is just choose what our goal is in them. Good things, lots of good things. Good stuff. Thanks, Holly. What else do you have to say?
The main thing, and I think that we've gotten such. I think Cheryl's been so organized about figuring out how to work with this program, which is such a terrific program. And I think that what she sent out is probably, if people are pressed for time, what she sent out is probably the best stuff for this group to focus on, because it is things that I think are quite aligned with what the Conservation Commission is interested in. But again, I don't want to. I think I don't think it's something that you'll have to decide for yourselves if these grab your interest.
Yeah. So we don't need to do it in this moment, and we don't need to do it while you're online. You don't have to stay for the whole meeting if you don't want. But I think it's been captured in this most recent issue. I mean, I had a whole bucket of mail to go through last night, and my copy was in there, so I don't know actually when it arrived. But I was really happy to see page 10 and 11.
Yeah, I'm going to go back and take a look at those now.
10 and 12, I mean. So,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I think we have come together very nicely between conservation and the town in general, and sustainability. I think it's great.
Yeah, a lot of good things going on.
Good stuff. Yeah. What else do you want to add to it?
You know, I don't really have too much else to add. You know, and I think the main thing is, you know, the sustainable site is very interesting. It's very comprehensive, but it's also very long. And so, you know, it's if you want to just take a look at that for the overview, and then you know see how much of it grabs you. And then if you don't have time to do a lot of in-depth reading there, just look at what she sent out. But you know, and I probably will detour to go downstairs and see what's going on. But it's good to see everybody again. And does anybody have any questions? If not, I probably will drop out at this point. But it's awfully good to see everybody.
Yeah, good to
too.
see you.
Thanks,
Are you
Holly.
back in old time?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Thanks very much. So
So that must be good news that you're both here.
yeah, it's great to be back. So
Okay.
be well, everybody. Have a great weekend now, and Happy New Year.
Same to
Okay,
you.
thanks, Holly.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming
Same
in.
Uh,
All right, Maureen, what's happening with the events magazine?
Okay, so the events magazine is looking really good, especially because we got 2 notices. And, you know, I also want to comment and say that if it's easy to forget how long it takes for some efforts like what we're doing to take effect. But Rogers Lake Authority News in this same issue has proposed a lot of what we've been saying over the years. Don't feed the geese, that's one thing. Also, a big part of their article was, did you know that raking your leaves and other lawn debris into the lake can lead to green water and algae blooms next summer? So what we've been babbling about for years, so maybe it's just me babbling about it, don't put stuff in the lake. And they've got some nice information here about how people do use leaf blowers to blow their stuff into the lake. There's another paragraph about fertilizer containing phosphorus, and what was the other thing? The other thing that I saw too, the last part of it was, do not feed the waterfowl. I mean, how long has that been going on? Probably 20 years that we've been talking about that. But it's finally getting published, so I personally take credit for some of that finally getting stuck into somebody else's agenda. Somebody else is paying attention. So, okay, that's all I have to say. So we can put that under events. All right. All right.
I look forward to reading that January magazine edition.
So when you
Been
get
20
a
years
chance,
in the making to get
you're
that.
not going anywhere. So while you have a cup of coffee in your hand, sit down and look at old Lyme events. This is a good issue right here, and a lot of it has to do with us. Okay, moving on. Phantomhead. Go ahead, Anthony. You call it. Our business.
Well, I don't know. The Board of Selectmen meeting was last night where they were discussing this. I had a conversation in mid-January with Steve Ross on the phone right before he went to Florida for the winter, just to discuss kind of their position. You know, it was initiated because of the letter we provided. He was kind of pissed because over the phone, he seems to be aligned with ours. The tone of the letter that they provided to Bonnie years ago at her discretion, or they provided to the Board of Selectmen at Bonnie's request, that letter didn't seem, or position that we were coming from, for sure. But they seem to be of the mindset that that property is not going to be abandoned. It's not going to fall into private hands. It's still town property. There's no. I think you guys got some of the emails, but the discussion as far as it was left was, or Gary and George, you guys went to the town to the meeting with the Harbor Commission, right?
Yes.
So so the homeowner, his position, from what I understand, what he spoke about, his points, his arguments, he also provided in a letter, which was, regurgitating what he said at the Harbor Commission meeting, and that, he has concern about safety and this and that. But after talking with the Harbor Commission and the Board of Selectmen, they basically told him that absolutely the boulders have to be moved. That this property has to be accessible to the public. Whether he wants it to be foot traffic only, but the Harbor Commission recognizes that would limit access to people who can to the landing. So that wasn't a solution. I don't know what kind of compromise they're coming to at this point, but it seemed like he was on board with coming up with a solution that benefited people in town as well as his privacy as the adjoining landowner. So, I think the issue in the past, since no one had been living in Atwood House for the last, I don't know how many years, but it had been vacant for a while, so people were becoming very comfortable with going down there and not feel like they were on somebody else's property, and up to the point where people were sitting on their front porch and parking in the driveway and walking around the house and looking in windows and stuff like that. That was Steve Ross's take on it. So and also allow access for people to get it to the water there.
I'm not convinced that he understands how much of that frontage also is part of that landing.
Yeah, it sounded like he does. They know that there was a pretty long strip along the front. The water frontage from that house is town property, and I think they know that, and they were potentially discussing alternate access points to the water that were more. And I don't know what they've come up with, and I'm just kind of piecing together what they said in a letter and their talking points. But it seems like the homeowner might be willing, to help and I don't know, provide, parking or solutions for parking areas and stuff that not eliminate the parking area, just make it more defined so that pulling it up to his garage and acting they weren't sure where
I
to
think the
park.
Board of Selectmen was working on that issue. That's why I'm sorry that Gary and I couldn't go to the meeting last night. So now we're gonna have to wait until we get the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes to find out what happened.
Yeah, I don't think any actions are going to be decided at that point. I think it sounds like if anything is going to happen, there's going to have to be more input from either commissions or community for any changes there. But in the interim, it's accessible. The boulders should be moved. I don't know if the sign is back there, but Steve told me he essentially demanded that the homeowner produce the sign. He was convinced it was in the man's garage still. So we'll see. Either that or we'll put a new sign there, whatever.
Well, if I could speak up on that issue, you certainly have some leverage on this homeowner in the sense that the property owned by the town goes along his front yard. Probably, I can't get an accurate figure on feet, but it's a substantial way over in front of his house. And that could be ceded to him in exchange for a little more cooperation with the parking and access to what the landing requires. I also think that the Harbor Commission has at least an investigative function here into what tides provide access to that particular. Kayaks don't have that much water, don't need that much water to get out into the mainstream, but it is one of the few. There is, of course, the ancient landing down below, which is presently occupied by a number of boats from apparently the people who live up in the hills behind that location. That certainly is available, and it's deep water, and maybe that should be our focus on seeing that the Harbor Commission publicizes that and makes it public. In other words, let the people who have their boats down there know that you're on town property and not your own. So there's more to do here, I think, rather than just let things settle.
Excuse me, Mr. Daniels.
Yes.
This is John McDonald, a resident of Old Lyme. I'd like to speak to this issue.
Sure. Welcome, John.
Okay. I would like to introduce myself to the commission. I am the new chairman of the Harbor Management Commission. I've replaced Steve Ross, who is now the vice chairman. What I would like to do is just update you on the status of phantomhead landing from the Harbor Management Commission point of view. We've called a special meeting on January 12th at 7 p.m. and it's been posted on the website as of this morning. There is only one item on the agenda, that is the phantomhead landing recommendations as requested from the Board of Selectmen. So we'll be making and approving some recommendations to go to the Selectmen on how to improve the conditions at phantomhead landing. The dialogue with the homeowner and the neighbors has taken place around the issues. There is a draft recommendation that I am happy to forward to your commission, and it could come through your email. I see on the website I can mail you something through the email in that fashion if that's the way that you would like to get the draft recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Could you summarize briefly or touch on some of the recommendations are?
Certainly. The issue of access was the primary lightning rod, the rocks that barricaded not at different times the town road and the parking area. As of December 29th, when the site was visited by Tim Griswold, myself, and the owner, the rocks had been moved and set aside, and the rocks were on private property and not on town property. So that issue has been addressed. The access, of course, is by the local neighborhood, and the town people have indicated overwhelmingly that they would like to have motorized access down to the site at what has been the traditional parking area. And there is a provision in the recommendations to mark off and install and lay out some boundary that would indicate two parking spaces, parking space 1 and parking space 2. And they would be adequate for vehicles to park there. And head in, back out, turn around, and not to encroach on private property. We have multiple signage requirements. As of now, I don't believe there's any signs down at the site, and it's hard for the public to understand, according to some of the comments I just heard, and that's right good comment, that the people of Old Lyme don't know what maybe the site entails. So there's some signage that would indicate where the landing is, where the private driveways start and stop, and how the parking should go. There's also some recommendations. So there's four signage recommendations. There is a west of the parking area. There is the little path that runs down to the water. The commission is going to debate, and I think it's appropriate to consider not allowing motorized vehicles to approach the water. We have some concerns about the wetlands and going too close to the water. So the path, I'm not talking about the driveway, I'm talking about the path, should be blocked from motorized traffic. We don't recommend, and we're not going to recommend any clearing, cuttings, plantings. We want to maintain the landing and its rustic character. It would be maintained. I'm not saying it won't be maintained. It would be maintained, but we're not advocating any major landscaping things or that nature. So I think it clearly is a compromise where the local people can walk there and have access to the landing, and the occasional person who likes to kayak out of there can drive down and launch from the parking area. That's about it. I'm happy to share this with you, and you can come to the meeting and have comments. We have a public session at the meeting before we vote on the document.
But before you sign off, this is Maureen Plumley. I'm the secretary. Could you repeat your name, please, for the record?
Yes, it's John, John.
Yeah.
MacDonald, MacDonald. ONALD. Okay. And you're just a resident of Old Lyme? Yes, I am.
Okay. And tell me again the date and time of the meeting, January 12th, and what was the time?
January 12th is our regular meeting date. It's a Tuesday, and it's at 7 p.m.
Say that again, at what p.m.?
I'm sorry, 7 p.m.
Okay, 7.
And your choices are to attend in person at the town hall, or you can attend by phone on WebEx.
Okay. All right. Good. I got it.
I have one
Okay.
question.
Well, thank you.
I have one question.
Thank you for. Go ahead.
One question is, what is the Harbor Association plans for the water side of this landing? That, I guess, is your area of responsibility, not so much the land side, but on the water side. It is fairly shallow there at the moment, as everyone knows, I guess. And I wonder whether this is a potential for dredging to some degree so that small boats with a motor, particularly with a motor, can get out. I just wondered whether you've addressed that issue in your discussion of this particular property.
So the jurisdiction of the Harbor Management Commission below the coastal jurisdiction line is not one of the recommendations of the Board of Selectmen, meaning that we're not making any recommendations in our recommendations to the Board of Selectmen for any changes on the waterfront. We are making the observation that we're not recommending any modifications or changes to the waterfront area. That would include anything like dredging, docks, ramps, or enhanced access to get to the water. So we're advocating that it be left completely natural.
Well, in response to that, not to prolong this, but if the idea is that you bring your car down there, you have a boat on top of it, and the idea is that you'd like to get that boat floated out far enough so you can take advantage of the views and so forth of that cove. And the whole point of the property is to get somebody out on the water. And if you don't make any opportunity for them because it's shallow to the point where you can't get your boat to move, and particularly with an outboard motor on it, you are effectively eliminating this access to the water. And I think that goes against the whole principle and purpose of having a landing.
George, I just weigh in that I kind of like the idea of it remaining natural, because it seems to me that if you wanted to throw a kayak or a canoe in there, you could, but it's we're already having a little contention with the neighbor and the idea of putting motorboats and jet skis and other things going in there. To me, I'd keep it just access for canoes and kayaks and leave it at that.
So I think there's a couple things, and I think this is a twofold. This is a separate issue from access from the land side. Boulders, let's get the boulders removed. Let's get access again to the waterfront. In my conversation, and John, you can probably speak to this, but in my conversation with Steve, and I chair now, but when I talked to him, he was chair. That was a whole new ballgame in regards to the DEP and dredging permits and what constitutes, waters or areas, flats that qualify for permitting. And it sounds like that would be an issue from the DEP because there's no marina or harbor up that way. So improving that channel doesn't improve boating from their perspective. And so it wouldn't be feasible to go in there and do that. Now, I recognize the point. If you can't get out there with a canoe or a kayak that you carry from your car, then what's the point of it in the first place? So you can drive there, you can park. All you can do is look with binoculars at the swallow murmuration, which also, in talking with Steve, the publicizing of the swallow activity out there in the fall the last 5 years has ramped up interest in that area and getting out there. So now we have people from out of state who are trying to get that area of Lord's Cove to check out the birding events, and they're driving down there and they're getting lost in this neighborhood and they're driving on private property. And so, the lack of signage is an issue. The inability to get because of the shallow accumulation of silt, that's an issue for voters. So I don't know. I think one step at a time maybe on this, and let's maintain, access from the land, first and come in from the water second. I think, George, to your question, that would be a DEP issue.
I agree with the gentleman who was just speaking. I'm not sure I recognize your voice, but
Anthony Daniels.
Anthony, I'm sorry, excuse me, Mr. Daniels.
Okay.
The Harbor Management Commission spent state's money, almost $2 million, dredging Black Hall and the 4 Mile River for the benefit of boat traffic, the public, and the marinas. Very extensive. We have to be very careful about disturbing the minerals in the water. So, we don't, and we've looked at it very conscientiously. We've looked at this, and this is not a candidate for dredging. It is an out of the way, very small, marginal access point. Any kayaker would be better served at one of the bigger launch areas that is more hospitable. It's just the mud. I have it on first-hand account from the residents who live there that the water access is only obtainable on an hour or two around high tide.
Right.
There's sucker mud out there that pulls the boots and the shoes right off of people. It's not easy to walk through. It's not pleasant at all. We don't. Our harbor, our kayak and launch initiative to enhance different sites found looked very carefully a year ago and said this is not a good candidate. It's a very marginal site. People who want to use it, that's up to them, but it's not really available other than 2 hours twice a day.
John, I know it's Anthony again. I know that dredging may not be a feasible option out there, but what about? And I know again it's costly. It's nothing's cheap when working around marine environments, but some sort of dock or pier or something that you could get out on that would be less of an environmental impact than dredging. Still doesn't hold any feasibility.
No, we haven't gone in that direction. We don't think it's feasible. I think the docks would be an overstatement for something of the modest nature of Phantomhead Landing. It really is. It is just a very small, rustic little area that we feel that is better off preserved in its natural state. We don't think that adding those kind of features is warranted or necessary or even environmentally sound at that site. And for the purposes of the meeting we're going to have, it's out of scope. We're not going to send recommendations in that thing to the Board of Selectmen.
Fair enough.
John, would you say that again?
Excuse me, say what?
I was saying there are not going to be any water side recommendations made to the at the meeting on January 12th.
No, that's correct. We're not going to make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen about the water side because that's what I consider out of scope of what they requested. We had an access issue, we had a boundaries issue, but it is merely it's going to be a footnote in our report that it's a recommendation that the water side remain in its natural state. It's not a recommendation, it's just an observation that it should remain natural.
All right. Well, I appreciate you calling in insight.
All right. I'm going to jump off the line. I'll forward the recommendations to your website online.
Yeah, that's fine.
Either that, or I can take down somebody's email address and I can forward it to the Maureen. I could take it and send it to you if you wanted to.
Yeah, that would be okay, and I can attach it to the minutes of tonight's meeting.
It's fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Do you have my email from the website, Rogers Lake Health, it's called?
No, I'm sorry, I don't see it on the website. Where is it?
Okay. All right, I'll just read it to you. It's all one word, ROGERSLAKEHEALTH
After Rogers Lake, what was that next word?
Health, HEALTH
Okay,
at gmail.com.
Rogers Lake Health at gmail.com.
Yeah, and then I will attach it, and it'll go to everybody here.
Okay, this is our draft recommendation.
Okay, thank you, John. Thanks for calling in.
Thanks,
Okay,
John.
I'm signing off. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.
Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Okay, so before we get to George James, we need to just do a look at that school vote at the playing fields. So Gary, you and George have been tracking that.
According to
Anything
this,
to add?
I sent you all an email about a BOE meeting on Wednesday.
Right?
Okay.
George, I can't read cursive emails.
What?
I can't read your cursive.
Yeah, that type style has got to go.
I didn't. What you?
It's
a
beautiful.
Type style that looks, George, it's the type style that looks like a wedding invitation.
Something must be going on with my computer because I'm not. That's the one I'm not using because my sister-in-law can't read it because of her eyesight.
Yeah, well, mine too.
Well, all right. So I will go ahead.
George.
I'll resend it. I'll go ahead and change the template and resend it. But my point is,
Okay, good idea.
they're going to use artificial. They're going to use an artificial-based turf. They're not going to use the rubber. And if they're going to go along with that, there's no change needed in their contract, according to what the superintendent said. And if that's what they're going to do, go for it because it's healthy. There's no problem, and there's no carcinogens, no cancer problems, no nothing. So I
It
guess
looks also like it looks like infrastructure for it. You can kind of interchange the material in the future if you so choose.
yeah. Well, I sent you in that email. There was a verbatim off of what was in their letter. I added a description of the material that they're going to use.
Okay, I'll attach the email.
I can tell you from the last facilities meeting, and we have another meeting tomorrow night, I assume, to approve the fill. It is basically just wood.
Yep.
And they chip it down, and it's they bake it and process it, but it's small wood particles, and they hold up for supposedly 10 years or so. And at which time you'd have to replace the fill, and you have to supplement it like you would crumb fill or anything else. But that's right; it doesn't have any carcinogens. It's slightly more expensive than the crumb rubber, but not a lot more expensive. The bigger expense is that to use it effectively, you really need to put a pad underneath the turf. But I was recommending they use the pad underneath the turf, even if they go with the crumb fill, because the crumb fill has an extensive record of increased concussions because it's a harder surface. So a lot of new installations are going with a pad underneath the turf anyway. So So I don't think that's really an extra. So I think it really, if you go apples to apples, it's like a $20,000 increase, but it not only is better in terms of concussions, it dramatically reduces the heat, and there's heat stroke problems on those fields that can get up to 140 degrees during the summer. And of course, it, right, as was mentioned, gets around the carcinogens issue and potential health issue. And also it's more favorable to all the neighbors who border on the pond and the stream, because some of this stuff will make its way there, and this is purely organic. And at the end, when you replace it, you can take this stuff and just spread it over the regular fields, the natural fields, and it'll break down and be in compost. I think I said that the Conservation Commission was concerned about this at the last meeting, and that I think the general feeling of the Facilities Committee was that it to get around all these issues, it made sense to spend the extra money. So I think that'll be the vote prior to the Board of Ed meeting tomorrow, but we meet at 5, and I think it just my gauge of the way people are leaning is that facilities will approve that too.
That was my impression from what I read today.
Yeah.
Wow, so that's a big win.
Tom,
You know,
what role?
if anyone wants to see it, the stuff is called Brockville.
And the email that I sent, I provided you the Brockville website.
Yeah.
You know, all the information you need is on it.
Okay.
Another issue solved, we hope.
Yeah, good work. Good work.
Yeah, George, thanks for the footnotes.
Nice. Good success.
So that sounds good. I don't have a concern about that. I don't think conservation does at this point, right?
I don't either.
Okay.
We want to discuss George's letter.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
it has to be on the agenda.
Huh?
Yes, of
Before-
course. George
before-
has to be on the agenda.
Before we go on that, can I just ask everybody to tell their friends that are interested in the landing issue about the special meeting on the 12th?
Yes.
Okay. And explain to me, which group is it meeting? Is it the Harbor Commission?
January 12th is the Harbor Commission meeting at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, okay, Harbor Commission. All right.
So they're presenting their recommendations to the Board of Selectmen. It's a special meeting.
Yes, got that part. Okay, got the date, got the time. Okay.
And George, James, you didn't seem too satisfied with the water side explanation. The Harbor Commission's responsibility to maintain the water, but I kind of saw it as like I was saying, a two-step issue. If that were another issue on its own, that would be investigated separately. But in talking with Steve, I think the conversation goes through the DEP, not Harbor Commission, even though that falls under their jurisdiction. They would, I think, liaison that, but I think DEP is full jurisdiction.
Yeah, one of the things I have noticed quite recently, just the other day, is that whole area of water is now shallower and shallower. Apparently, the runoff is sufficient to add a couple of inches every year, and as a result, without some sort of either a dock out there or in other words, one of the oldest tricks all around here is that you take a outboard motor out there and you run it not at the full depths of water, but at some depths of water, and that makes a channel. And that's all you need. but that's what they used to do in the old days. Right now, I think it becomes a cause célèbre. Nothing for us to battle over, because without that water access a little deeper, it's a waste of our time and effort. We should fight other battles. I hate to say that, you know that, but I hate to say it. But that, I think, is the issue right now is pretty well resolved, and that it's not going to work, and let the owner feel that he's made a wonderful achievement by demanding his rights or whatever. Otherwise, we don't need to piss off another taxpayer. At the same time, it is disappointing from the point of view that we do own that waterfront, probably another, 40 feet. And as a result, as part of that deed, and as a result, we could move our entrance point down along the coast a little farther where the water is slightly deeper. But, that becomes just kind of a cause célèbre rather than something we want to be tied to. I'd rather fight the field, the football field or whatever, issue more than that. In other words, as I recall, the fundamental purpose for having this crumb compost thing on the field is there's not enough water. But if you've got a pond just over the hill, you have a big, in other words, the idea that you can't get enough water to water the fields, to me, is just nonsense. And that adds a really substantial bill to the taxpayers at this time in our taxpayer history, which is, we should probably be cutting corners wherever we can, rather than adding this fundamentally large project. So I know that you got a lot of investment of time and effort into it. At the same time, the original reasoning behind it was that we don't have enough water. Well, that's nonsense. That's just not true.
So just I'm not a big fan of the artificial turf either, largely because declining school populations and the like, and it's very expensive. Right. But the water issue is an issue, and they did do a drawdown to pump that pond to see how quickly it replenished. They were shocked how quickly the water level came down. So, and they've always had trouble with irrigation, and the problem they're running into is that, and this is their primary argument, is that yes, they're trying to be as natural, not using pesticides and stuff, but to do that, you need a lot of water. So they have not been able to maintain those fields in good shape. And then the result is the parents get up in arms because potential injuries. So they've gone through this for a couple years, but there's definitely some water issues there that can't totally be dismissed.
Now, I understand they've been through the battle, but at the same time, from a taxpayer's point of view, particularly at this time, it seems to me that this is not wise politically.
I agree with you on that. I think it's too much money. So, but that, yeah, they've got reasons, but I'd be in your camp, I think.
Yeah.
And as far as the pond goes, the wetlands had the rule on that, and we allowed them to draw down, I think, like 13 inches.
Yeah.
They set up like an automatic pump and everything like that, so they wouldn't go below it. Yeah. I never did hear that it worked or it didn't work, but
yeah.
Well, one thing that should be pointed out is that you have a septic system that's pouring millions of gallons of septage up into that field, which then has to go somewhere. I mean, it's not as though that water just disappears. So when you say that the pond has an experience of losing water, how is that possible? Or where is the water going that is being pumped from the septic system that they have up its north? What, about 300 yards or 400 yards into a big septic area? So I wonder what happens to that water. It's millions of gallons.
Well,
Literally millions of gallons.
right, but when you irrigate, it does not everything makes it back to the aquifer, and not everything makes it back to the pond, and you lose a lot to evaporation. There was quite a study, but if you're interested in it, you could request that from facilities. They had an engineering company come in, do the drawdown, do the water study. So you can look at all of that if you'd like. I'm just saying it's been looked at. It's not just,
Okay.
yeah.
Sorry.
So it's worth inquiring about, though. You should ask because you know more about it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, there's another alternative is to put another tank of water up on the top of the hill and use that water for the field. So there's more that could be done, but much, to save money at this time. I mean, you've done a great job, and believe me, I appreciate all the time and effort you put in.
Well, I'm not a fan either, so you don't have to convince me. But I'm just saying, it's certainly worth. If you're curious, get the documentation. But they've done a lot of studies on the water, so yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking the access issue is a big issue for us because, the river courses changes and everything like that over time. Plus, our children or grandchildren are going to be able to use that place. And
Right.
I kind of disagree with his 2 hours a day thing. I need to know, if you know anybody who's kayaking out of there, let's see if we can get some experience from them. The 2 hours that he quoted twice a day comes straight from George Frampton, who is the mastermind at fiction. Did you read his letter? He told everybody on Colt Lane to walk. Carry your kayaks. He said the BO Board of Selectmen weren't doing their job. The cops weren't doing their job. How many times did he call the cops? I don't know if he did or not. But if you read his letter, it goes around in circles. Actually, he's a master at his job is that he writes fiction.
I could say that about 15 years ago, when I think it was it the Fetchers raised this issue that it wasn't accessible. They had a house a few down. I actually went and threw a canoe in there, and I did go at high tide, and it was accessible. You get muddy, but I'm used to launching canoes in the mud, and I don't know about that 2 hour window. I wasn't out there. I was probably out there 2 hours, and I had no problem getting back. And I doubt I went exactly at an hour before high tide. So you're probably right about that. But you're saying, George, that things have changed there, that it's silted up a little since 15 years ago?
I believe the whole area has risen as far as the mud. And one other, just again, not to bury this project, but another thing that is very clear is that you have a dam with a water flow coming down right next to where we have our entry point. Well, if you went over the edge just a little bit to the north and put your boat in there, you're riding out on that particular channel, which is a little deeper, not much, but a little bit deeper. And I know that if you took a motorboat and put it in there and ran the motor, you could make that buck disappear and make a channel. So it's not, it's not, people have done that for 100 years around here, as long as they have motorboats. And it's a simple thing, and it doesn't disturb any of the surroundings or anything. And it would provide a place for them to go out. The next place down is our what do they call it, Pilgrim's Landing. And
That is
perfectly
over.
acceptable. I mean, it's not bad, but as you go the long
crowded.
paddle, they go back up in there.
Not only that, George, it's crowded and there's not enough parking spaces there now for the people that use it now.
Well, that's it. So it's been taken over by the gang with the boats now.
Mhm.
So that's one we should, I guess, look at. Oh, by the way, one other thing, I think I put in my comments that there were some other places to put in your boat. And there's certainly the state boat launch over on the 4 Mile River is a very good one. Excellent. So it's not as though we're without any. We have very good ones, I think, in other locations.
Yeah, the issue there, I think, was just the launch into Lord Cove.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if we could talk the town into buying that piece of property that Diana used to have on, I think that's on the Black Hall by the railroad track there. I walked out there with Evan. It's a beautiful place for launching kayaks. It's got its own little sheltered pond that goes straight out into that river.
That's right.
But
The only thing you again you have the issue of maintaining it. Who's going to maintain it?
Yeah.
Because as you know already, it's not easy to get in there. A lot of bushes.
Yeah, it'd have to be prepared.
Yeah.
All right, well, George, it's all you.
Well, I hope you all received my missive. It's the purpose of the series of suggestions and comments. It's really to, in one side, complement the efforts and particularly the success of the parking areas and improved trails and so forth that connect the McCulloch with the Loeb property. That's a very successful project and deserves a lot of praise. On on the obverse of that is this whole business of the beavers on the other parcel, on the Ames parcel, and it has created a lot of dissent in the town. The poor guy up in the pond that got his house flooded and became ill as a result of the flooding. It's got mold in the house and so forth. And that, that was a whole episode. Then continuing down, the Old Lane Land Trust had a beaver pond put in just above its place. And they called in a trapper and the dam was removed and everything is flowing very nicely. So as it comes down, the river comes down to the Ames parcel, it flowed into a kind of a natural area, and the dam is at the power line. It runs about a quarter of a mile. It's a very impressive dam, and it backs up, floods an area that was, of course, just a brook. They had the people who owned property on the Meeting House Lane used to walk on they constructed a boardwalk so they could get onto the Ames parcel direct rather than having to go down to the access road. That was washed away, and in its place now is a sizable pond covered with green algae, which suggests that there's nowhere else algae in that area. Up north of it, they suggest that the septic systems are being flooded. And you also have this whole pond is a big pond, killed a lot of trees, and also has the potential of being a super duper mosquito location. And near the highway, we got a good chance of picking up a triple E set of insects. So as you then go down, you have the next pond down is flooding the access road. So they've lost the access road as a result of this. And then continue on down, you flooded out the lower valley, which had probably 60 to 100 trees in there. And you have now underneath Whippoorwill Road, you have them blocked off. So that's where the dam is that is flooding the entire valley. Now they made, that is the open space gang, made a good point that the trees are great and important. They have that ability to absorb carbon dioxide, not just a little, but a hell of a lot. And what we have now is the loss of probably, I'm going to estimate 600 trees, that's a conservative one, that now are not going to do their job. They're going to be just dead. So it didn't make sense to me to have this, what was a perfectly functioning and brand new open space area cut off. You no longer have a good access road. We have to go all the way around to Evergreen Trail to get access to the place. And that has issues with fire and emergencies. So there's a lot that has happened as a result of that. And as you can see on my final page, I'm pissed off in that there is an assumption on the part of the Open Space Commission that the town crew is going to do the cleanup after them. That is, remove that dam that is at Whippoorwill Road. And to me, that's unfair and unjust. It shouldn't be done. That they should have to suffer for those decisions. Now, as you also see, I do endorse and think it's great that we have beavers on the Lay property. It's a very productive. We have, I think, 13 nests of great blue herons, and it is visited by the dozens. So it's a very popular site. So that's my explanation for some of my ire.
As for me, I don't have any objections to it. After I read your last page, page 5, George, the fact that I know background is not included in there, it doesn't sound like anybody's really pissed off. They're just stating facts. And I'd much rather go straight on to the issue than beat around the bush. Because obviously beating around the bush on this issue has solved nothing. And in the meantime, we get more flooding, we're losing more trees, less water flow, more scum. So why not try the direct approach? Shortest distance between 2 points is still a straight line, I think.
George, I think it's quite a masterpiece here. It's a good summary. It's well written. It's not antagonistic in any way. There's no way to misinterpret what you've written. So I'm here applauding.
As a member of the Open Space Commission, I can tell you that that will not go over very well with them. They'll give you a lot of reasons why you should leave the dams there. Possibly a middle ground is the beaver deceiver.
Yeah, I mentioned that. I said that if you want to do that, use your beaver deceiver, not there, not just at the dam, but also down at the culvert.
George
That's
included
about
the
a fifth.
beaver deceiver in his letter.
Yeah, it's in
Yeah.
there.
George,
Yeah, the culvert right now is all dammed up. It's about as deep as it ever was.
That's
now.
right. Now, I'm very serious about exposing the town crew. They're going to have to get in wetsuits. They have to go in there and risk their neck, get in that and lift those limbs out of there. There's no other way out of it.
if they ever have to jump in that pond, they're gonna find two things. They better be damn good swimmers, and they better be polar bears because the water's colder than hell.
I ain't too cold.
So I think
Exactly how cold is that?
Well, if you'd like to wear your goyoons around as a necktie, try it.
Well, again, coming back to my letter, I'm quite willing to tone it down in any way you folks think is more diplomatic, but I still think the fundamental message is that beavers do not belong on the Ames property. Plenty of other places around. They could actually have, if you wanted one, as a suggestion, you could put one on the McCulloch property. They have a substantial start of a dam there already, but you could flood that lower valley if you have to have beavers on the McCulloch property. But I don't think they should be on at all, ever, on the Ames. There are too many that have to be done on Ames it's just not worth the well, I'll keep quiet. I could go on.
I would opt for being straightforward as opposed to trying to be politically correct and therefore fogging up the issue. Right now, what George has written is clear cut. There's no misunderstanding. Nothing can be misconstrued. So, oh.
I think work with Gary might be an amicable way to approach this, seeing the crossover with the Open Space Commission. We're trying to get bees with honey here in a way, also achieve a goal or objective. That's my position on it. I think it's a well written letter. I think it's I appreciate the information, the detail involved in it. For me, I wasn't aware of a lot of this, and so it kind of, you threaded the story pretty well.
I mean, the Open Space Commission, I'm pretty sure would be unanimous or almost unanimous to not touch the beavers on Ames, except I think they've talked for 2 or 3 years now about the beaver deceivers. And they've also talked about a learning station where with a trail in there where people go in and read, see the beaver dam and all that. So that would be a very positive thing for
Yeah,
them to
but
do.
Gary, they've been talking about it for years.
Well,
Talk is
that's true. That's true. And
time for talking is over.
well, that's true, but that would be part of what our letter would say to them. Get off the pot.
Yeah, well, that's what George is saying. And I agree with him. If you
Gary,
go down there and look at it, if it were me, I'd take 2 sticks of dynamite and blow the dam up.
That has been done upstream there a ways.
I got friends in Maine, and that's exactly what they do every fall.
Gary,
They
I
blow
have
it
a
up.
question
Yeah, but they're
about open
maniacs.
space. Gary, about open space. What is their love affair with beavers? Beavers are not endangered in any way, and why is it so important to them to protect the beavers as opposed to the property owners? Really, what is George is doing?
Now, a property owner is a different story. If it's tearing down your house, they'll get rid of the beaver. But if it's just tearing
Because
down
flooding
the
your
trees,
backyard.
that's a natural process. Do you realize that almost every field we got in this country was all as a result of a beaver dam a few hundred years ago?
Do you realize how many trees have been destroyed because of those beavers and that excess of water?
That's part of the natural process. But what you got is a dam there holding back the water. So now you've got we're talking about watershed, you got some positive there holding the water. And in the summer, that water is draining into the aquifer. There's at least 2 pros to every con we can come up with. We've talked about this.
Wait a minute. Go back to my question. My question is, where does the fondness for beavers come from in open space? Is it because they're just cute critters, or
no?
What's the
They're
reason for
valuable.
championing the beaver?
Ecological.
Very valuable to the environment. That would be their position.
I can say that.
They're ecologically significant.
Well, I mean-
However, we have confined them by a limit. So now we have a problem we've created, or into a worse problem that we have to manage. Right.
And we have that problem with beavers everywhere now.
Yeah, but
we're only
talking about Old Lyme here. We're not talking about the rest of the United States.
Yeah, but I'm talking there are beavers everywhere. They've come back. Used to be if you had beavers, you could live trap them, move them down the road somewhere. Now you can't move them, and you can't trap them. So it gets involved with the DEP and that. But I know the Open Space Commission will not entertain the idea of getting rid of beavers. They will. I think they will entertain the idea of a deceiver or deceivers.
Well, what I had recommended after I received page 5 of George's write-up is that if we have consensus on what has been written, then we need to have a meeting between us, the Open Space Commission, and the Board of Selectmen and get this issue resolved one way or the other. Playing one up the other is not going to work. If you put all three teams around the table and discuss it. And I think that's the only way it's going to get resolved. Anything short of that, we're just screwing around for another 365 days.
Well, have all the people involved in that suggestion, George, have they all seen what the results of the beavers are? In other words, I know you're all familiar with hiking and the trails. How about everybody else on the Open Space and the Board of Selectmen? Have they all seen this?
Tim Griswold has seen it. And I know Gary, of course, he's seen it. He knows what it looks like.
He's there today.
I don't know. I really don't know.
So I think that's what you would need to call for before you have a sit-down meeting, because otherwise, people are just going to take their own personal stands. They're not going to understand the bigger picture. So could we set up a viewing of this area? Is it possible to get access to it? Can you get in there?
No, you can't. You have to go from Evergreen Trail.
And hike in?
Hike in, yeah.
Okay.
It's a bit of a hike, so if you got a heart condition, forget it.
Well, but I think if you haven't seen the results or actually seen what's going on, you can't really have a decent opinion.
Oh, I agree. I was just thinking,
I will be delighted to have a walk-in anytime you guys want to set it up. And I'll take you in one at a time or several of you at a time. But you should see it. And if you're not going to sign on it, you should see what's there. And as I say, I'm quite willing to show you what I'm talking about, and at your convenience, because I walk there every day.
Because, Mary Jo and Chris should be seeing this too, in addition to Tim, and any members of the open space, and I'm including myself, I would be interested in actually seeing it so that we can support a position.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea. That's rather than just send them a letter. Let's all have some on-site experience with it, because I promise you, you will be surprised at the damage. It's just unusual.
But
then
it's,
we have to see it.
Yeah,
We have to
I
see
agree.
either that or else, in the extreme case that people can't get in there, do this visual meeting. Get a cell phone and do a video of the area and narrate it as you go. And then anybody that wants to at least see that much of it would have something to go on. But for me personally, I haven't been in there, so I'm not sure. And I think we're divided within this group as to how to present this, let alone face two other groups. So if we can have a strong position ourselves, you'll be able to make a point, or perhaps point your document in the area of the beaver deceiver rather than just getting rid of the beavers, because that's not going to fly. And right there, everything comes to a halt. But if we can agree on what the purpose of this letter is, what do you want and what's doable, we might be able to show some success. But I think we can't do that until we show up and use our own eyes to make a conclusion.
Well, as I say, I'll be glad to take anybody any afternoon that you're free, at any time that you're free. Early morning, I'm in there usually at 9 o'clock in the morning at Evergreen Trail. That's where you meet, because you can't get in any other way now.
Okay.
And as I say, I'm available. Just give me a call, and we'll set up a time. And I'd like to see all of you have a look at it. As I say, I'm in there regularly, so it's a wonderful property. I'm very proud to have had a hand in getting it for the town, and to see it destroyed is just very difficult to accept. So
well, I will go with anybody else who wants to go. I think Mary Jo could be an advocate for this.
Yes, that would be good.
Chris, I don't know what his position is, but when you get those one or two, I will attend on that day.
Okay.
Let me give you.
It's not going to do the overall approach any good to have me go individually. But
The
I'll
weather's
go
good for the
as
next 10 days. I just checked.
well. I'll go
Yeah, that's
when
it.
you want my presence to have a meaning to somebody else, either the selectmen or open space people.
Let me
Gary,
bring
has
you up.
all the open space, Gary,
Yes.
have all the open space people seen this property?
I believe so. I mean, some of them have been out there in their up to their waist trying to build a bridge.
Okay.
Another thing on Chris, that pond we were talking about behind the high school,
Yeah.
that's his pond. And it's got a dam, but it's got a beaver dam on top of it.
Huh.
So he probably likes beavers.
Yeah, cute little fuzzy guys. So anyway, then that brings us down to the two other selectmen and at least me from this committee. Anthony, have you been in there?
No, I'd like to take a walk out there.
Okay, so there's two of us. Tom, you've seen it?
Yeah, but not since the flooding's gotten this extensive. So I'd go on a walk.
Okay, so there's at least three of us and the two selectmen.
That'd be
Who
great.
pays for a
Who's going to
beaver
invite
deceiver?
Yeah, so
I'll
who's
go
going to
along with
invite
you
the
wherever
other
you
two?
go.
Yeah, not
Gary,
going.
I'll go along.
I think a beaver deceiver with all you have to bring in some equipment. You
Yeah,
can't do it without equipment or with explosives. You got to blow the thing or bring in some heavy equipment because the people, you can't put the thing in properly. From what I've been, I looked at a lot of these. They have a whole, probably 300 of these on the internet that you can look at different experiences with the beavers. And,
I know it's a big deal to do it, but who pays for that? Does that have to be paid for? Does the town do this, or open space, or who?
well, it had to be I'm asking the open space gang to do it. It's their project. And
$5,000 plus labor.
and it's you have to put a pipe in, and you got to have wiring at both ends, and it does change the level of the dam rather dramatically too. So it would be a different scene if they put in a deceiver there. They have to put a deceiver down in the culvert as well. So there's two, and we're talking probably $1,500 to $2,000. Whereas if you call up the DEP, they will send a trapper, give you the name of a trapper. He'll come down, and the next day the beaver's gone. That's what happened before. They trap, very easy to trap, very easy to trap. So it could be done with no cost to the town whatsoever, and you would have the blessing of the state of Connecticut.
I'm willing to go anytime. Just somebody give me a
Well,
call.
let's set a time. Let's shoot for Friday at
Friday.
this Friday at 2:00. How's that sound?
Okay.
I can't do Friday afternoon, but that's all right. I can catch up with you another time if you want to take several.
Yeah, I'll
hikes
go
out
with you
there.
anytime. Anytime you want to go.
Okay,
What
that's
what
fine.
time you got?
Okay,
You
so
going for now?
Friday, the date Friday is
8th.
what's it say? 8. Okay, Friday the 8th.
And we meet at Evergreen Trail. You go in Boggy Hole Road, down to near to the end, and then turn off to the left. And that's your Evergreen Trail.
Are you parked at Evergreen?
Yeah, I got lots of parking.
It's a big cul-de-sac there.
Yeah.
Just stay left.
Okay.
Always
So
So at the end of
Friday at
Boggy
2.
Hole Road. Okay,
Yeah.
and somebody's going to bring at least a camera with a video or a cell phone with a video.
Yeah, we all have cell phones with videos. Maureen, you don't? We'll take a collection up for you.
I do have one. I just want to make sure that somebody else will show up and say, "Oh, my phone died."
Never go in the woods without a fully charged phone.
Yeah.
And matches.
Okay.
I
Well,
think
I'm
you'll
gonna
be
put that-
surprised and amazed, really. It's really destructive, as you'll see. Okay, look forward to it. And
All
no
right, well,
action,
it goes in the minutes.
no action on this until you actually see the situation. Is that all right?
Just
Dress
to let
warm
you
because it's
know,
only going to be
it goes in the
38
minutes.
degrees that day.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
It's warmer than
But
today.
leaving.
Wear boots. It's
Yeah,
wet.
it's going to be warm.
But we're good hiking shoes anyway. It's a little wet in there.
A little wet. Okay. Sounds like more than a little wet.
Well,
All right,
no,
so I'm gonna put this in the
the
minutes.
trail's not too bad.
Okay.
All right.
Um,
See you
and
then.
I think we're settled. I think just to clarify things on another issue, I think we're settled on the plan of conservation and development, correct? Nothing else to be done?
Correct.
Okay. I don't hear any noise. Okay. All right. I got it. Anything else to add to the minutes? No?
Anthony?
Nothing else?
I'm good.
Oh,
That's good.
I have one more question. One more question before we go. George James, do we hold vote elections next meeting?
I think
Yes.
we should have done it this meeting.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, you can hold your meeting there, your election next. It should have been this month, but these are different times, so we got excuses, I think.
Can we do it now?
For next one,
I'll make a motion.
Well, I
Can we
think
do
it
it now?
needs
I'll
to
make a
be,
motion.
Go
it
ahead.
needs to be publicized first.
Yeah,
and I
okay. All right,
don't
you're
think
right.
we should
You're right.
skip any. So
All right, we'll do it next.
we'll agree to do that next meeting. So just to clarify, that includes all the officers? Yes? No?
I don't know.
George James?
Yes,
We have to vote on everybody, right?
you have to. Excuse me.
I believe so. This is Gary. I believe
The
so.
vice chair and the secretary.
Yeah.
Yes?
If you're going to elect new officers, that's what you do on the next meeting, certainly.
Okay.
That down.
All right. Just clarifying.
And then
Okay.
you've got a chairman and a vice chairman and a secretary. And so that's what would be on the business for that meeting. Again, these are difficult times. We got that excuse all the time.
All times are difficult. So
Yeah.
we need to add any names or invite other people to, I guess putting it on the agenda will do that, right? Just get the
You
word
get it
out.
posted. You get it posted, and everybody in the world's got an opportunity to know about it.
Okay.
That's
All right. That's my job.
for you.
I'll send them out.
FOIA.
And George James, another question. We don't need, I think, to attach this document to the minutes at this point.
Well, no, not at this point. Not at all.
Okay. So you're off the hook. All right. So we're doomed for Friday at 2:00, correct?
Correct.
Yep,
All right.
yep. Evergreen Trail.
Evergreen Trail. Got it. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, and
Hey,
one little side note. If anybody wants to see thousands of Manhattan, take a stroll down to the Point of Woods boat basin. I was walking through there today, and it's just filled with bunker from the entry all the way up the river.
That happened a
thank
week
you.
or two ago across the
It's
river
filled
on
with
that. You go
What is it?
bunker.
Manhattan, bunker.
Hayden. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Shoreline is riddled with them right now too. All they're washing up everywhere.
Yeah.
pretty impressive though.
Okay.
All right, well, meeting
Oh,
adjourned.
In case you weren't here earlier before we started the meeting, congratulate Anthony because he's a father for the second time.
Yeah,
Whoa, congratulations.
thank you
Hey,
very much.
And about
Had
to
a sleepless
celebrate his
night.
birthday.
No
So,
sleep, but
You can
I'm
choose
missing
to sing happy
time right now.
birthday or not. Up to you.
No.
So happy birthday and happy fatherhood, Anthony.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good for you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll meet up
All right.
again Friday afternoon.
Okay, see everybody Friday afternoon.
We'll see you guys.
Yep, thanks everybody. Thanks for good work. Good work.
Night all.
Good
Good night.
night,
All right,
all.
thank you.